Mm-hmm. There we go. All right, let's get started here. So, for you, TikTok, we're going to be talking about trucking business, 2024 year in review, um, business principles, business practices, profit and loss. For those of you watching on the other platforms, I have to do this every time I start a TikTok live to get the algorithm to be nice to me. We will start at 8 o'clock on the dot. Check your microphone. What's wrong with it? You said to check the microphone. I need to know why. Let's see, are all my settings right? Yep, that's right, and that's right. Everything seems to be working properly. So this will be the 2024 year in review. I've got a presentation for you guys. We're going to go through. Sounds like I'm on the wrong mic. Great. Show advanced timer. Okay. Audio 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. How about now? Let me try this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me try this. Okay. All right. I checked it on TikTok. It sounds good. Crisis averted, I guess. One more minute. I got to remember that these comments are like a minute and a half or 2 minutes behind what I'm actually seeing. So, but I think we're good now. I'll get started right at 8 o'clock. Okay. All right. Good evening, lunatics, friends, and family. It is January 17th, 2024. I am going to be running solo tonight. I'm going to go over all of the 2024 numbers. I've got a presentation set up for you. I've got top 5 trucks. I've got number 1 driver. He's going to be with us tonight, and he'll kind of talk about his experience of what he did last year. And so we're going to have to do a little bit of setup just to make sure that we're all using the same vocabulary when it comes to, the words that we're going to be talking about, the categories, the different kinds of revenue, the different kinds of expenses. So that's what this whole episode is going to be about. And I think it's going to go pretty well. I've got the numbers laid out, I think, in a way that they're easy to see and understand. And hopefully this will be something that can be a reference point for you to come back to. Now, given that it is January 17th, 2024, and this broadcast is on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, I would be remiss if I did not share a couple of thoughts given the pending potential end of TikTok. I have been on TikTok actively for, I guess, about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. I have 61,000 followers, which is, it's okay. I mean, it doesn't in any way compare with the big creators, people that are making their living off of that platform. I've made a little money. It's nothing to write home about, and it ain't going to pay the mortgage, but I've cashed the checks right when they come. But it's a very sad place that we're in right now. That millions, literal millions of people right now in the United States of America who make their living interacting freely and voluntarily with other people, selling products, or sometimes just providing joy and entertainment, are making their living on this platform, and they are about to be put out of business through the whims of people that probably could not convert a Word file to a PDF. People that have absolutely no clue how social media works, how the internet works, how a computer works. Most of them probably wouldn't be able to turn one on if you gave it to them. And it's very sad to watch this be happening at the whims of 535. There's 170 million people in the United States active on this platform. And 535 paranoid, insecure, delusional, narcissistic psychopaths have decided that they can shut someone's way of life off because they voted on some paper. Now, do I believe it's the end of TikTok? No, I don't. Number one, these people don't understand how the internet works. There will be plenty of people that use technology to go around it. I will be one of them. I will engage whatever technology is necessary to ignore and evade and disobey the ban because I don't take orders from people I don't need permission from. But it's just kind of a sad time to be alive here in the land of the free. In this industry, in the trucking industry, there is a lot of conversation about what power and influence the state has, or what power and influence the state should have. There's always the conversations. Well, they shouldn't do this, and but they should do that, and they should fix the rates, or they should stay out of the way, or they shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. And what I want us to remember, what I want us to keep in mind. Mr. King on YouTube says, tell ByteDance to sell. That's the issue. Well, imagine I'm running a business, and imagine some small group of people, a gang, if you will, decides to tell me that I've got to sell my business to suit and appease them. No,
No, the answer is absolutely 100% categorically no. And if I'm going to allow that to happen to someone else, well, I can't say, well, I'm not going to have that happen to me. Because just remember, whatever flavor you are, whatever you allow the state to do to someone else, it can do to you. And so on this program, we have always been very open that we do not want nor do we need the government's interference in the market. The market can take care of itself. The market has always taken care of itself, and the market will continue to take care of itself. I don't need their blessing. I don't need their interference. I don't need their help. I don't seek their help. And I'm certainly not going to sanction or endorse that level of violence against someone else just because I don't like how they do business. Brokers, you know, we've talked a lot about how people want to take the power and the force of the state and attack people with it. And so I can tell you, sitting in my chair, I don't care about CCP. I don't care about national security, because that's not what this is about. This is about Google and Facebook getting their butt kicked in advertising revenue. And so they're using the government to destroy their competition. But I don't care about any of that. I saw a guy one day said, that he would drop ship his DNA to the front door of the Chinese Communist Party rather than get on Instagram. So the good guys in all of human history, the good guys always win. And the bad guys have never won. Not one time in all of human history have the bad guys ever won. But it is an interesting time to be alive right now and watch things happening. Because listen, there's 170 million people in America right now, and they're not happy. There will be consequences of this. I guarantee you. Some of them may not be immediately. Some of them may. But I'm going to say this final thing. Okay. I want us to always remember history and context. Okay. The first time I ever saw a computer connected to the internet was around 1993, 1994. So I was like 17. And a friend of mine had a computer hooked up to AOL, dial-up internet. And at that time, it was chat rooms and, and email. You've got mail, right? But at that moment, when I first saw that computer for the first time, I couldn't even fathom wireless internet. I couldn't fathom cable internet, DSL, high-speed internet when it came along. When the first affordable cell phones came along in about 1999, I got an AT&T phone where I got 1,000 minutes for $100. And it was life-changing, because up to that point, so the first 2 or 3 years of my career as a driver, if I wanted to talk to somebody, I had to do it on a payphone, or I had to do it with a calling card. And some of those calling cards were 25, 30 cents a minute. My parents installed a 1-800 number at home so that I could call toll free. That cell phone changed my life. And when I had that little Nokia brick phone in my hand, there's no way I could comprehend what an iPhone would do and what social media would do to change my life. The ability to broadcast was at this level, that sitting in my office, broadcasting literally to where any one of the 7 billion people on this planet could hear my voice right now, even if they couldn't understand it. But I can reach them because of this technology. So right now, we don't really have to come up with a new thing. It already exists. It's called blockchain. And I am absolutely certain that in the very near future, there will be a decentralized social networks, probably plural, that have no central authority, that have no central server, that cannot be turned off, that cannot be affected. So the paranoid, delusional people in Washington they can hold their breath till they pass out. And they can stomp their feet and they can, China. It's not going to matter because they can't turn it off. And that's coming. It's just a matter of time. And that same kind of technology that already exists is going to revolutionize our industry because it's going to fix a lot of the legitimate problems that we do have. We have legitimate problems in this industry when it comes to billing and security and double brokering, and those are real issues that affect real people. And the technology is going to come up, but it's going to have to disrupt. It's going to have to replace a lot of existing systems that people are very comfortable with. But it's just a matter of time before these changes happen. So just like in 1993, when I looked at that dial-up computer and I thought, well, it can't get any better than this. And then everywhere along the way, it just keeps getting better and better and better, and more improvement and more improvement, and more opportunity for liberty comes along. This is not the end. This is the beginning, right? This is the beginning of the next wave of social media, interaction, communication, and technology. And I am here for it. I'm very excited to see how this is going to go. So, without further ado, let's get into the subject of tonight's program, and that is going to be our 2024 numbers, okay? Now, I call it Profit Leaderboard because I publish a document in our fleet every Wednesday evening after I have gone through all the settlement and done all the settlements and worked through all the numbers, and I issue this document to our fleet every weekend. So every Wednesday. So if you were in the masterclass or one of our BCO mentoring clients, you would get this data every Wednesday, and it comes straight off of the settlement. So it's every single number that is involved in operating these trucks. So let's talk about the terms. Okay, we've got to talk about, these are the kind of categories that we're going to talk about and we're going to go through. So we got gross revenue. Okay, that is the amount of money that the customer writes the check for. Okay, what we call before Landstar's cut. All right, net revenue, that is the money that the truck earns after Landstar's cut. The driver pay, all of our drivers are paid the same, 25% of gross, line haul, and accessorials. The payroll cost, all right, the payroll cost for us runs about 11%. Okay, so if you pay a driver $1,000, the cost to you for that $1,000 is 11% higher because you have to match the 7.65 payroll taxes, and you're going to have some fees associated with running payroll. The reason that this is in the Profit Leaderboard is because we teach our trainees, for lack of a better term, we teach our people that in order to operate a trucking business most efficiently, you need to run your business on a Subchapter S LLC, and you need to pay yourself a payroll, what the IRS calls a reasonable salary, because it's going to save you a bunch of money on taxes, okay? And what all of the people in the accounting world that are much smarter at this than I am say that $65,000 is about the number between sole proprietor and Subchapter S, when the tax savings really starts to make a difference. Now, according to ATBS, the average net profit for an owner-operator is around that $65,000 mark. Now, we have always taught that if you run a trucking business, single truck operation the way we do, you should expect a net income of somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000, not 65. So when you're up in the 150, even 125, up to 200,000 range, you need that tax savings of running a subchapter S on an LLC, paying yourself a reasonable salary, and then whatever you make over that salary becomes a dividend that you only have to pay the regular tax on. So that's why we have driver pay and payroll cost in here, because you need to see that and forecast it out to see how it plays out. Okay, then we have other expenses. We have fuel cost, profit before maintenance, cost per mile before maintenance. Sorry, my camera's in the way of my screen. Profit after maintenance, and then the week profit is what, because we're trying to show what a single truck owner operator would make if they own the truck and drive the truck. It's going to be the driver's pay plus that profit after maintenance. Now, I want to do a little bit of context here in the big picture, okay? Because there's a lot of conversation and there's a lot of disagreement about what's better, leasing to a carrier or having your own authority. It is my position that all first-time owner-operators should begin their career leased to a carrier, not with their own authority. Having your own authority, if you don't have any business expense, is very, very risky, and risk is what puts a lot of people out of business, okay? So this here is on the screen to illustrate a point. Every truck running up and down the road hauling freight, whether it's Swift, Schneider, JB Hunt, US Express, or a single truck owner-operator, must have a truck. That comes with a maintenance cost. It must have a trailer. That comes with a maintenance cost. It has to have an authority or work under an authority. That's an MC number. It must have cargo liability insurance. It must have bobtail unladen liability insurance. It must have physical damage insurance that protects the vehicle in case you break a windshield or run into something. All right. Has to maintain regulatory compliance. Has to pay a federal FedHut, federal heavy use tax, $22.90, $550 a year. You have to have access to load boards and customers. You have to bill customers to get paid or use a factoring company. That's your accounts receivable. You have to have a way to buy fuel. All right. That's Comdata, EFS, Mudflap. You've got to do bookkeeping and accounting. You've got to have a driver, right? Drivers come with an expense, and you've got to have workers' comp insurance. So leased or own authority, every one of these boxes has to be checked. Okay. You're not getting out of paying a single one of these by not leasing to a carrier and having your own authority, or leasing to a carrier, not having. All of these are going to get paid. Okay. So here's the difference for us. Okay. With our own authority, we have a truck. With lease to Landstar, we have a truck. Okay. That's even. All right. Lease to my own authority, I got to have a trailer. Well, if I'm pulling a van at Landstar, my trailer cost is $0 and my trailer maintenance cost is $0. All right. Run my own authority, I got to have an MC number. Landstar, I do not have to have an MC number. I don't have to maintain an MC number. I run under theirs. If I'm going to have my own authority, I have to have cargo liability insurance. At Landstar, my cargo liability insurance always has been, is, and will always forever be $0. Run my own authority, I got to have bobtail unladen liability insurance. At Landstar, it's $33.98 a week. My physical damage at Landstar runs, depending on the value of the truck. I've got one that's as low as $100 a month, and I've got one that's like $250 or $270 a month. Compliance, okay? If you're going to run your own authority, you have to make sure that you maintain compliance. I don't have to do that because Landstar has got an office full of people whose only job it is to make sure that I have all of the permitting that I need. All of the reporting is done. There's never a question when I roll into the scale house if my truck is legal. We both got to pay the $22.90. All right. If you're going to have your own authority, you've got to have access to customers. You've either got to go get them yourself or you've got to have access to a load board. Well, those load boards can run $150 to $180 a month. My access to Landstar Contractor Network is $3.69 a week. All right. You have your own authority. You're either going to have to bill to get paid or you're going to have to factor, right? And if you're going to bill yourself, you're going to see terms ranging from anywhere from 30 to 120 days. If we deliver the load by Monday and scan the paperwork, we get paid on Wednesday, whether or not Landstar ever gets paid. I have never one time in the 10 years I've been at Landstar have them come knock on the door and say, oh, excuse me, we didn't get paid for that load, so I'm going to have that money back. Never happened. You got to buy fuel. Fuel is our number one expense. Nobody in this industry has discounts for fuel like Landstar. We both have to do bookkeeping and accounting. We both have to do driver payroll. You're going to have to come up with workers' comp. Ours costs $35 a week. Okay. So let's just make sure, okay, as we're going through this, because there's going to be people that are pay that. Okay. But when you're over on the left side of the screen, you're exposed to every single cost. On the right side of the screen, you are not exposed to every single cost. So that 35% that Landstar gets from the truck covers a lot, right? Covers a lot. There's a lot of value there. Don't ever forget that. And one more thing I should add, that is that we have 4 trailers that we operate, platform trailers. I don't track trailer revenue the same way that I do truck revenue. Trailers get 8% of the line haul. Every number that you're going to see here is based on the tractor only, because most of the time that first time owner operator is going to be only operating a tractor and not a tractor and trailer. And honestly, I mean, the trailers, they make some money. They justify their existence, but they're not paying your mortgage, right? Okay, so let's go. Breakdown of revenue. Gross revenue. Gross revenue is all forms of revenue collected from the freight bill, and that's money before Landstar's contractual percentage and does not include any trailer revenue. All right, net revenue. This is what you would call your 1099 revenue. This is the money that goes to the truck to pay for all of the truck's expenses to the truck, and that's after Landstar's contractual percentage, and it includes all your different accessorial income. This year, I've changed my tracking spreadsheet. I used to just have one column for accessorials. Now I've blown that out to like 10, because at the end of the year, I want to see, okay, well, how much was stop pay? How much was TARP? How much was loading and unloading and this, that, and the other, and hazmat and New York ARB? I'm tracking that differently in 2025 because it matters, right? It's an interesting data point for me to track. But I want to also be able to show clearly, especially that column that says detention and truck ordered not used. I want to be at the end of the year able to show what percentage of that revenue, that total revenue that we took in, was detention and truck ordered not used, layover. Okay, because I am going to bill for detention when I can, and I'm going to collect it when I can, and I'm going to cash the checks when it comes in. However, what I'm not going to do is get distracted by truck orders not used and detention and layover, because I'm going to be able to show y'all at the end of this year that is a tiny percentage of our income. Will we take it when we can get it? Absolutely. Will we cash the checks? You betcha. Going to go right in the bank, okay? But I'm not going to sit around and lose my mind because I didn't get $100 worth of detention on something, because y'all, truck orders not used and detention, it's not enough to pay the bills. It's just not, okay? We're going to get it when we can, okay? But it's not enough for you to lose your mind about. All right, next, driver pay. All right, drivers are paid 25% of gross line haul and accessorials. If accessorials that are paid to the truck, that are paid 100% to the truck, like loading and unloading are received, and the driver touches the freight, they're going to get 50% of that accessorial instead of 25. Fuel surcharge and tolls, by the way, are 100% paid to the truck. So the driver does not get a percentage of fuel. And all of our drivers are paid on a W-2. We are not crooks or thieves that pay people on 1099s and get them to pay our taxes for us. All drivers are paid on a W-2 as they should be. Payroll costs. All right, it's approximately 11% of gross driver pay. So that includes your payroll costs, federal taxes due by the company. That's part of your S-Corp election that you're going to want to do if you're going to make more than $65,000. And if you're not going to make more than $65,000, why in the world would you own a truck? I mean, we're going to own a truck. Let's get out there and make the money. Let's make it worth it. Because it's listen, y'all, this is hard. This is hard. If I'm going to do it, I want that 150, 200 grand, right? All right. Next, we have, all right, here's the breakdown of the revenue. So we have what are called fixed expenses. And these are the things that either A, don't change weekly, or can, the way they lay out on the settlement, I put them in fixed expenses like tolls. We do that once a month. Okay. Okay. So we got Landstar Communication Network, $3.69 a week, pre-pass, $2.50 a week, unladen liability, $33.98. Workers' comp can be $31.38 or $35.38. I don't know why. Don't ask me. Physical damage insurance is based on the truck's value, the stated value. So we got a bunch of $20,000 trucks. So they're 100, 125, 150. And we've got two newer trucks, and they run, I think the top one's $270. All right. Monthly, we have to pay $27 airtime for the, Motive ELD. We have to pay ad valorem and mileage taxes. They're deducted monthly. You have a handful of states, I can't name them, like Arkansas, New York. They charge mileage taxes and what are called ad valorem taxes. And so those are all calculated for us. I don't have to put any time into it, but once a month on my settlement, I will see ad valorem mileage, and it's $30, it's $50. It's not very much money. All right, our base plates. Our IRP registration runs $1,700 a year, and it is deducted for 18 weeks during the year at $94.44 a week. We have com data fees. So every time we load the fuel card, it's $1.75. So those generally run $5 to $7 a week, depending on how many times we load the card. Every time we scan through TransFlow, so once per load is $2. That usually runs $6 to $10 a week, depending on how many loads we do. Tolls deducted from the settlement. Now, we run best pass transponders, but occasionally the transponder won't pick up, and I'll see a toll pop up, and then I've got to go through yuck to track them down and chase them down and say, nope, look, my truck was 500 miles from there. Landstar escrow. Landstar collects $1,000 at the beginning of every lease, and that is collected $66.67 a week until it's paid off. And when you lease on and you're in orientation, they're going to say, pick one, red pill or blue pill. Would you like a warlock or would you like an enforcer? One or the other. I like the warlock. It's $197.28, and they take it out like $23 a week or something. All right, that's our fixed expenses. Now, here's our other expenses. Now, we use Verizon fleet tracking on all of our trucks. It's beautiful. It's got a forward-facing dash cam that is cloud-based. So, if you get run off the road by a four-wheeler, I can track them down. That's $19.95 a week. So 2046, about $80 a month per truck. We have iPads in each of our trucks for the drivers. We have to pay $22 a month for that. And then monthly, we get our statement from Best Pass for our tolls. And monthly we get our IFTA settlement. And in that case, sometimes you get a credit and sometimes you get a charge. It just depends on how it calculates. Landstar does all that for us. I don't have to spend a minute tracking IFTA. It's done through the ELD and off of our fuel card purchases. And, and that's it. They send it to me once a month and I'm like, all right, I got a credit or I didn't. And then scales, oil, and additives from our fuel card activity statement. So each week at Landstar, you get 2 documents. You get your settlement, and then you get your card activity report. And because you basically have 2 ways of getting money, on your settlement and on your fuel card. And so the card activity statement, I go through and I add up all of my fuel and DEF and scales and oil and additives and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, don't use your fuel card to buy additives at the truck stop. They're triple the cost. Go to Walmart. Next, we have fuel cost. Okay, this comes off of the card activity report, and this is all after the discount. This is the document that proves your fuel cost. Every Saturday, I do this. So I'll do this tomorrow night. It comes at 6:00 on every Saturday. And I'll sit down and I'll go through every truck, every fuel card, calculate all that. We run fuel gauges accounts in each truck. So the driver has the iPad with the free fuel gauges app. And every time they get fuel, they put the information in. And then I take the card activity report and I make their transaction match, because they're never going to be to the penny, right? But I go through that way. Their fuel gauges report accurately shows what their actual fuel cost was. Profit before maintenance. Okay. Profit before maintenance is the balance of net revenue minus the driver to fix the other and the fuel cost. All right. So we got money that comes in to the truck. We have all of our different expenses that come off of the settlement, and that is our profit before maintenance. The next one is cost per mile before maintenance. I guess let me preface this. I may be getting out of order, but it'll be all right. I did an analysis last year. I took 2 of our old trucks, an 04 and an 07, and I took 2 of our new trucks, a 17 and an 18, and I went into our digital Dropbox folder and I added up every maintenance receipt that I could find from the time the truck was put into the system until that day. Then I went in to fuel gauges because it has the mileage. And I went, okay, that truck started on this date with this mileage, and today it has that mileage. And then I divided all of those expenses by the miles that truck ran in that time. I had one with a cost as low as 18 cents, and I had one with a cost as high as 42. It was a 17 model, by the way. The 2 cheapest ones were old, and the 2, I digress. But when I averaged all 4 together, I got 25 cents. Okay. When I met Larry, he always accounted 15 cents for maintenance. Well, as we all know, the price of parts and labor has gone up while the quality of parts and labor has gone down. Now, the 2 older trucks included end frames in that money, which technically is a major repair, right? So, it's a major repair. It really wouldn't be part of your routine maintenance cost. Okay. But I included it because it happened. Okay. So here's an 04 and an 07, each with way over 1 million miles, that had an average maintenance cost of less than 25 cents a mile. Okay. But we'll see as this lays out why that maintenance number is important. Okay. So the gross rate per mile, all right, that's that gross number, the amount that the customer is going to write a check for, divided by total loaded and empty miles. Now, I track everything, because if it ain't wrote down, it didn't happen, right? So I have a spreadsheet that I track every load on for every truck. Now, these are billed miles, okay? So know that you're going to have to add some miles to these, because these are billed miles. We all know that billed miles versus real miles off about 10%, but the billed mile is the easiest way for me to track that. Then we have net rate per mile. So that's that net revenue to the truck after all the percentages and all that stuff. And that's divided by the sum of the loaded and empty miles. All right. Next, we have the net after 25-cent maintenance. So the way mine is a horizontal linear progression across the page as I put these numbers in. So we have the net rate per mile. That's the actual money the truck earned divided by the sum of the loaded and empty miles minus 25 cents, right? That's where that came back in. So that's my net rate per mile after maintenance. All right. Next, we have our profit after maintenance, right? So in the formula, that's the loaded and the empty miles divided by that net after maintenance cost. And then we have the breakdown of revenue, which is whatever the week profits. So we got expenses come in, income comes in and expenses come out, including the driver pay. And then over on the right side of this linear progression across the spreadsheet, we're going to take that driver pay and we're going to add it to that profit. Because if you own the truck, you are the driver and you are the owner. You are the same person that is getting paid as the driver, and you're getting that profit left over at the end. So that's what that's about. All right. And what's my next score? All right. Now here is where we're going to talk about the man of the hour, and I just can't imagine how excited he is to talk about this, because we're going to hit his numbers and then we'll talk to him. So this is Greg Beachy. Greg was a top driver for 2024. He joined Blue Ribbon in May of 2023. He's a former owner-operator. He is what we call an FB3 operator on the platform division, and he pulls a 53-foot flatbed. And Greg has generated a straight-up ton of money. So here's where we're going to talk about the numbers real quick, and then we're going to bring Greg in. Greg's total gross revenue for 2024 was $354,224.88. That net revenue was $244,438.18. One little side note to this. This came from 3 different trucks because Greg was driving a truck and old Uncle Rodney come knocking. We got a rod knock. And so I moved him into another truck. And he stayed in that truck until October, and the opportunity came to put him in a California legal truck so that his wife could join him and they could go out and get a little bit more of that big money. So I took the numbers from 3 trucks while he was in and combined them. So his gross rate per mile, all miles, was $3.07 a mile. His net, after Landstar stole all of our money, was $2.17 a mile. All miles, loaded and empty, $2.17 a mile. When I'm seeing that and these other places reporting that people weren't even getting $2.17 a mile gross, and he's getting it to the truck. Total profit after maintenance, $136,000, $594.31. So had Greg owned this truck or trucks, done everything that he did, he would have cleared $136,000 after saving about $28,000 for maintenance. And the total profit per mile was $1.21. So, Greg, buddy, welcome.
Hello.
You certainly were getting the job done in 2024. So just now, it's just me and you having a conversation. There's nobody else watching, right? It's just me and you.
Okay.
Tell me kind of how did you end up here, right?
Well, me and my wife bought a truck back when things were going crazy, and didn't buy the right truck and didn't do the right things, and I found out about Blue Ribbon after all that happened. And so we eventually got our truck sold, and I decided to come to Blue Ribbon and learn how to do it right. So that's basically how I got here.
So your motivation, I assume, when you guys bought that truck, hey, we're going to be owner operators. We're going to go take advantage of the opportunities that the industry provides. But it didn't work out quite that way, did it?
No, no, it didn't. I mean, we bought the wrong truck.
What kind of
Bought it at
truck
the
was
wrong
it?
time. It was a 2017 Kenworth with a PACCAR.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
So when you came here, what was it like a culture shock? I mean, or was it similar to your experience before? Because you guys kind of worked with a small company, I think.
Hmm. Yeah.
So was there much of a culture shock getting into it, or what was it like in the first little bit?
Yeah. For me, it was not so much of a culture shock because I had been listening to you guys for a while, and the guy I worked for that I was leased on to before uh, has similar ideas that you guys do. So I had started practicing some of it before we ever came here,
Okay.
but um, it's the biggest thing I can remember is you don't go home and forget about your job. You have to. There's always something to do. You have to work on the truck. You have to work on your books. You have to work on something all the time.
Mm-hmm. So you got you came kind of in the beginning of we've always given Larry a little bit of a hard time because when I met Larry back in 2018, we will never have flatbeds.
Hmm.
We will never do platform because you can't make any money doing that stuff, and the deadhead is too high. And we've never let him forget that because you guys that do the platform stuff really have just dwarfed the numbers. I think my top van truck last year was $80,000 less in revenue than what you did. So you kind of came in as we were really developing this partnership that we ended up with Phil. So what was that like? Like coming in and now you have Phil, you have this wealth of knowledge that can get you from that FB1 up to that FB3. Because hey, buddy, by the way, your early 2025 numbers are just killer. And what was that one load $12 a mile?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah. So what was that like getting in the platform division and then having Phil at your disposal, even being an experienced operator?
Right. Yeah, I mean that was like you said, I had some experience at flatbed before, but when I learned about Phil and his experience and the opportunity that was available to me, I definitely wanted to transition over to that as soon as possible and work my way up. I started as a FB2 and I got to do a few more loads and I'll be a FB4. So
Wow.
I'm working my way up with
That's
Phil's help
awesome.
and with his mentoring.
Yeah. So, we really start from day one with what you would call business training, but it's really more much about changing your mindset, changing how you look at yourself, how you look at the customers, how you look at the trucks. So what was that like in the first, 90 days or so when we're trying to correct your vision and how you're looking at things?
Right. Yeah, it's you have to you have to keep an open mind because you're going to have to do things that you're not used to doing and you know develop new habits that you're not used to doing, and so it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of you make a lot of mistakes and you got to be okay with that and learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you really got to pay attention to the details.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the biggest part of it. And we watch people come in and they think, well, I know how to drive a truck. Well, yeah. But no trucking business has ever failed because the guy didn't know how to drive a truck.
Hmm.
It's because he didn't know how to develop those new habits to make all of those details stay important and stay at the
Right.
front of your mind and develop that mechanical, uh, muscle memory, to
Hmm.
know what to do and when to do it. And then the problem solving, that comes in. And this is really what I really wanted to ask you about, because now you have seen kind of the blue ribbon way of dealing with problems when they come, because a lot of people are like, they get shell shocked and like, I don't know what to do now. But now you've kind of developed yourself to where when my phone rings and I see Greg, it's generally Greg telling me, hey, I had a problem and here's how I fixed it, versus, oh my God, what am I going to do? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, me and my wife owned a truck before, so I had some of that. But being a company driver most of my life, I fell right back into well, just call Chris and he'll tell me what to do. And just the seeing how you handled stuff and reminding me that I'm going to have to learn how to handle it. Um, just start thinking different. You start thinking, okay, well, I got a problem. What do I got to do to take care of this problem? And if I get stuck, I have you to fall back on. But a lot of times I can figure it out myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, so now that we've gone through a full year, and you've seen these kind of numbers, because the one thing that's hard for me, I've been on this side of the desk and table for so long, it's hard for me to remember what it was like when you see these numbers now. And as you've watched them progress through the profit leaderboards, has that affected kind of how you look at it, and you go, well, okay, well, wow, so this was worth it. This is what I was after, and this is the goal. How does seeing the numbers play out? What's that do for you?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good incentive. I like seeing the numbers every week, and I really like when you started doing the quarterly numbers too, because that gives you a better picture. And
Yeah,
but yeah, it just gives you the incentive and the realization that this will work, and the desire to keep doing it and keep you know be consistent, keep working at it, and eventually someday, you know, we'll buy our my wife and I will buy our own truck, and it will be our numbers.
yeah,
Especially the encouraging thing for me is this past year hasn't been that good as far as rates and
no,
loads and all that, and
it's
still
been a
did pretty
terrible
good.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think it illustrates very well that when things are out of your control, like the rates, the volume, the available loads, it's when you uh, it's when you focus in on those details and you get what you can. It's not going to be the best rates you've ever seen. It's not going to make you feel all warm and fuzzy. But I've got a load on the trailer, and as long as the wheels are moving, we're making money, right?
Yep.
So I think 2024 is a great example to show that even with our van trucks that did not do anywhere near the revenue that you did, would still have made a respectable year while people are absolutely losing everything and can't keep up. So I'm excited to have to see what 2025 holds. I mean, obviously, it can't help but be better, because 2024 was garbage.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. You can turn the camera off and exhale and drink or whatever you need to do to calm down. But you did a great job. I appreciate you coming on,
All
and
right.
and we'll see you around.
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
All right, see you, man. Okay, so let's get back to this thing here, and we'll roll through this. I'm going to roll through the top 5 trucks. If I can figure out which button to push. There we go. Get this thing back up on the screen. So, all right, we're going to do. There was another breakdown for Greg. So we got gross revenue 346, net revenue 244,000. His driver pay was 78,846. Payroll cost was $8,673. The total fixed expenses $13,829. Other expenses $2,639. Fuel costs $54,000. $54,000. Now you think about that for a second. If you're not getting the kind of discounts that we are, what's that number going to be? Is it going to be 64? Is it going to be 74? Right? There's a lot of benefit in a relationship with a carrier that has a lot of buying power. So the profit before maintenance, $70,551. The cost per mile before maintenance, $1.46. Gross rate per mile, $307. Net rate per mile, $217. The net rate per mile after saving 25 cents a mile for maintenance was 45 cents. And the profit after maintenance, $57,747. And the week profit plus the driver pay for the year, $136,594.31. Not bad for a market when people are dropping like flies and going out of business. All right, so now we're going to talk about just individual trucks. Now, these trucks may have had, I didn't keep the truck number here. Oh, I know which truck this is. So this truck had 3 different drivers. It ran 32 weeks with a van, 15 weeks pulling a platform Conestoga, which made a big difference on these numbers because that Conestoga is a money-making machine. So the truck ran 47 weeks total, which means it sat for 5 in different stages and periods for whatever reason. Total gross revenue, $308,000. Net revenue, $218,000. It did 101,600 loaded miles, 14,886 empty miles. That's a pretty good, that's around 15%. That's kind of where we like to be. So gross rate per mile, all miles, $265. Net rate per mile, all miles, $1.87. Total profit after maintenance, $110,752. So the profit per mile was 95 cents, all miles. And that's a 2018 Freightliner Cascadia DT12 automatic, of which I am not a big fan. Truck number 2. All right. This is a truck that Greg drove for most of the year, 2007 Freightliner Century. There's a video on YouTube about this truck that was bought for $5,500 in 2020. We put it on the road in 2021. So that truck did $275,000 in total gross revenue, $194 net revenue, did 74,514 loaded miles. Here you can see where Greg was driving it, right, doing that platform. 18,219 empty miles. Now that's a pretty healthy deadhead percentage, but that's mainly because most of the time, 32 weeks was platform. And so it ran 45 of the 52 weeks. So it sat for 7 weeks. Gross rate per mile, $291. Net rate per mile, $205. Total profit after maintenance, $105,500. And a profit per mile, including the driver pay, of $1.11. Truck number 3. This was also another platform truck. It ran platform all year, 2006 Freightliner Century. 60 Series Detroit with an 18 speed. Now, this truck does not get good fuel mileage, and that made a difference. The truck number 2 was also an 07 with a 14 liter, but it was consistently almost a full mile per gallon better than this truck. And this is Phil's fault. I'm going to blame Phil. $288,974 in total gross revenue, $199,000 net revenue, 77,192 loaded miles, 18,096 empty miles, 303 gross rate per mile, 209 net rate per mile, total profit after maintenance about $100,000, and a profit per mile including driver pay of $1.06. So still, I mean, $1.06 is respectable. I mean, we see people hauling freight for $1.06. Not that they should, but they do. Truck number 4. This is a 2007 Freightliner Century. This one gets horrible fuel mileage. Horrible. But we fixed it. It had a bad EGR valve that we were just chasing. But it ran 45 weeks of platform, 278,862 total gross revenue, net revenue 196,000, 74,955 let me try that again. 74,957 loaded miles, 14,886 empty miles. Gross rate per mile $3.10, net rate per mile $2.19. Total profit after maintenance right at $100,000 and a profit per mile of $1.12. And finally, truck number 5. This was a 2004 Freightliner Columbia. Did 46 weeks van. That don't sound right. Because let me think, when did I put him on? He at least had a few weeks of Conestoga. He just started pulling a Conestoga right before the end of the year. But this is a 2004 Freightliner Columbia, another truck we bought for $10,000 in 2019. Bought it sight unseen from a guy for $10,000 cash. And it's now, so like 20, 21, 22, 23. We bought it for $10,000. We run it for 5 years. Did just over $200,000 in net revenue. Gross rate per mile, $2.38. Again, Matt, that's mostly van. $1.70 net rate per mile. Profit after maintenance, $90,000. And so our total profit per mile, 76 cents, including the driver. What's the average cost per gallon at Landstar? Well, let me slide over here and open a browser, and I will just give me a second. I want to click a couple buttons here. I'm going to go into our profit gauges. I'm going to pick, let's see, what truck ran the most miles? Probably this one. I'm going to click on custom. I'm going to go to January 24, January 1, and let's go to January 1 of 25. Average cost per gallon for 2024 on 132,000 miles, $3.06 per gallon. So this truck is a 2017, and the average mile per gallon was 7.17, and it paid $3.06 a mile per gallon for the year 2024. So that's not bad. I'll take it. I'm looking for my. I'm not accustomed to this fancy new system I'm using yet. So there you have it. Okay, so these are the numbers that we did on 5 trucks. 5. We have 10 in the system right now. We have 8 of them seated. We have a couple that didn't run the whole year. We had one that came in October, but these were the top 5 that ran full time, and these are the numbers that we did with them. Okay, so no matter what you think about Landstar, no matter what you think about new trucks versus old trucks and platform versus van, these are the raw, real numbers that we did in a horrible year. Where companies were going out of business left and right. Now, we don't have truck payments, and we don't do truck payments. All right. Now, if we had to pay truck payments out of that, it's obviously going to affect those numbers. But we don't do truck payments. We pay cash or we don't buy. Right. There were a lot of relationships and partnerships that helped us with that. People that own trucks and trailers, agents and customers that we've spent a long time building, but we don't have any secret special freight. Probably better than 50% is most of our freight comes directly off the board. We get in areas, we know who to call and we know when to call them. Right. Especially for like people like Greg. The more he has specialized himself up to an FB3 and about to be an FB4, there's going to be a lot of times that Greg's phone's just going to ring, And Greg is going to be in a position pulling a 53-foot flatbed to make an absolute crap ton of money in 2025. But this is why we do what we do, and this is how we do it. If you are interested in being a part of this program, you can go to blueribbonlogistics.com. You can read about the masterclass. It is 18 months in length. You come to us, you drive one of our trucks as a W-2 employee. There's no lease contracts. There's none of that nonsense. We're going to pay you on a W-2. We're not going to pay you on a 1099. I don't care how dumb you are and think it's a better deal. I'm not going to do it. We're going to offer you per diem. But the biggest thing we're going to offer you is an opportunity, because that's what I got. See, because I did this wrong. I was just as motivated and capable as everybody else when I started down this path in 2011, and I made it to 2017. So I beat the odds, but not completely. April 7th of 2017, my truck broke down and I couldn't afford to fix it, and I was broke and I was done. And I went back to be normal. I went back to the house and I got a company driver job that I hated with every fiber of my being. And it was being miserable on a forklift at 3:00 in the morning. It was 10 degrees. It was about this time of year. Matter of fact, it was probably very close to this time of year. I want to say it was January 25th, maybe. But anyway, I'm sitting on a forklift and I'm absolutely miserable. I hate my job. My house is about to get foreclosed on. My van's about to get repossessed, because no matter how hard I worked, I was working 60 hours a week. I was getting overtime. And no matter how hard I worked, I could not dig out of the hole. And I thought, man, I used to own a truck that had a cash flow of $3,000, $4,000 a week. I mean, from sitting in that spot, cash flow of $3,000, $4,000 a week would have made a big deal in me not getting foreclosed on. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to pull my phone out of my pocket and I'm going to just write a little post in these Landstar groups. Hey, listen, I killed the goose laying the golden eggs. And if you're in that position, let's go ahead and get your stuff together now. Please don't wait until it's too late. Because I did it. It was me. I can't blame the carrier, and I can't blame the president, whoever that was at the time. Who was the president in 18? Trump? I couldn't blame Obama. I couldn't blame. It was me. It was 100% me. Put my phone in my pocket, went on about my miserable job. And then Larry Long came along, and he said, hey, I'll give you an opportunity. Now, it was up to me to capitalize on that opportunity. And boy, did I capitalize. Because I left this here house and I went and ran like an animal for about a year. I went nuts. And so I was on the path. I thought, well, I'm going to get back. Okay, all right. All right, this is Larry Long guy. He's all right. He's been in business a long time. He's showing me the way. He's showing me that my way was not the way and that his was, right? He had receipts. But then something weird happened. I went, wait a minute. Hold on. Everybody stop for just a second. I made more money, real money in the bank. I made more money driving for Larry Long as a company driver than I did as an owner-operator. I got receipts for that too, because my best net income was 2015. It was $77,000 or $78,000. I made $90,000 in 2018 driving for Larry Long, starting in March. Well, okay. All right. Well, hang on. If I made $90,000 driving a company truck and made, 15 grand or so more than I did as an owner operator. I no longer desperately, keyword desperately, I no longer desperately need to be an owner operator, because before, see what got me going down the path in 2011 was I thought, okay, well, there is no way for me to make the money that I need to make, the money I want to make, other than being an owner operator. And so I went down that path, and it took me where it took me. The problem is that wasn't true. That was absolutely, categorically, 100% untrue. I could have, as a company driver or as an employee back in 2010, I could have looked and networked and made relationships and specialized, and I could have found a way to increase my income $20 or $25 or $30 or $40,000 a year as a company driver. I could have done that. I didn't, and honestly, I really didn't know. I just didn't have enough of an understanding of the industry to go seek out and find those opportunities. Now, this is 2010. Okay. This is, God, 2010 was 15 years ago. Jesus. Did I just do that right? Oh, I'm old. But that was 2010. All right. I was making $900 a week as a company driver, hauling big lots for Landstar. Right. But I was getting home, but then I get in Larry's truck, and he shows me how, I was good at getting revenue. Revenue was not an issue, but it was the keeping part. It's what Larry taught me. Changing my mindset, changing the way I looked at things, changing not buying oil at the truck stop, buying it at Walmart. I'm not going to pay triple for it at the truck stop because it's easy. I'm going to go over to Walmart and get it because it's a third of the price, right? And so I went, all right, okay, cool, right? I'm good now. I'd still like to be an owner-operator. I'd still like to own and operate a fleet, but my entire life and existence is not dependent on it. And then we hired a couple people. And I had to say to Larry, brother, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. But if these morons are what we've got to pick from, no, thank you. Okay, because listen, we hired just average. It's whoever would answer the phone. Just, hey, if Landstar would qualify them, we put them in the truck. God help me. And I said, there's no way I would not put up with this. And when I say that, I'm talking about getting on PC and driving 10 hours, right? Like getting a speeding ticket on the way to orientation and not telling us about it. Not showing up for orientation because your belly hurt. I mean, listen. And we've got nicknames for all these people that aren't sued for broadcast, so I'm just going to keep that to myself. But you can use your imagination. And I'm like, nope. I'm done. So I went back off, and I listen, I don't need a fleet. I don't need a bunch of trucks. I know now what I can do, right? I've proven the model. I need one truck. I'm going to get in that truck. I'm going to make my 150, 200 grand a year, and I'm good. And then I drug Larry Long kicking and screaming onto what at the time was called an American Truck Driver Podcast. Because I wanted to hear his stories. Dude has amazing stories from his 50 years in business and the car business and the dry cleaners and the professional photography and all that stuff. And so I finally convinced him, hey, just come on the podcast and tell these stories. And the phone started ringing. And it wasn't those people. It was Seth Coberly, right? The guy that changed our lives. And we went, wow. Like, so you mean there's people that would like to come and like learn and like actually listen and not drive 10 hours on PC and not show up at orientation because your belly hurt and not cuss out an agent. And, those people really exist. and the Blue Ribbon Masterclass was born. And so here it is, right? That's how we got here. That's 6 years of history in about 10 minutes. And so this is why we do what we do. Now, as we talked about last week, Larry is stepping away, and there's new ownership coming. You guys are going to get to meet him soon. And there's a lot of amazing stuff coming for Blue Ribbon. I mean, y'all, I'm fired up about 2025 and 2026 and 2027 and the things that we're going to be able to do with this company and other companies and other relationships and stuff. It's going to be awesome. But folks, if you want to be in business, you're going to have to get comfortable with being last. You're going to have to get comfortable with being last. Because any business you go to the gas station, you go to the restaurant, you hire the plumber, you go to the big corporate, doesn't matter. The guy that owns the business gets paid last. Everybody gets paid before you do. In our case, the driver gets paid no matter how stupid or dumb decisions that they make. They still get paid. Whether we do or it's a whole other story. Because we get what's left over. Now, if we steward that well and we manage that well, there's enough spread to take care of us in the end. But the reason that I do this is my personal mission or ministry, people would say. This is my mission because I don't want people to go through what I went through. Because it was hard. I almost lost everything, including my family. Because when you make dumb decisions, there are consequences and there is no bailout. There's no bailout. There's no safety net. The government's not coming to help you. Your carrier's not coming to help you. I mean, they'll give you tools and resources and stuff, but it's on you. 100% on you. And so until you're comfortable with going into the pilot bathroom, they got great big mirrors, and you can look in that mirror and say, you did this. Whatever you're suffering, whatever you're dealing with, you got to look in the mirror and say, all right, bucko, you did this. Now you and me have got to get out of this. We've got to change our mindset. We've got to do things that we've got to do all the things that I said I was never going to do. We're going to do all the hard stuff. And sometimes you just got to go, okay, well, listen, this part of it's over for right now. Because in April of 2017, it was over. There was nothing bringing me back. It was over. And I lived with it being over for almost a year. And I got an opportunity to come back. And so that's why we do what we do, right? So we have a couple of seats open. And look, finding trucks is not an issue. If we get more people than we got more trucks for, I get emails every day. Hey, take my truck. Now, point of clarification. Somebody asked about the mentoring. We are doing mentoring still. It's going to change a little bit with the new deal. Larry's got some stuff he's going to do, and Blue Ribbon's got stuff we're going to do. But the asset management thing is pretty much over. Okay. There may be limited exceptions to that. But I can pretty confidently tell you that asset management is not going to be a thing that we do. We're going to worry about what we got, right? But BCO mentoring is still something that we do, and we're going to have different layers We're going to have different opportunities for that mentoring. Some of it's going to be like virtual digital learning. Some of it's going to be direct contact with us. Some of it's going to be, having our dispatch team help you find loads. But excuse me 1 second. I got to take care of some business here right quick. So yeah, BCO mentoring. We're all very excited for kind of Blue Ribbon 2.0. I can't wait for you guys to meet the new owner. You're really going to like him. I like him. He's a pretty good dude. He's younger. He's kind of younger. I think he's younger than me. I think. But he's an established businessman with other ventures outside of Blue Ribbon, right? And so this is Blue Ribbon is going to be like a I don't know what word I'm looking for. Anyway, it's mutually beneficial operation between what he's got going and what we got going on. And so we're going to be able to invest in stuff, and we're going to work on the podcast. It's going to stay on YouTube. I may or may not be on Facebook after tomorrow or Sunday. I may have to be one of the people that's teaching Mark Zuckerberg a lesson. But we'll definitely be on YouTube. And that's kind of what sucks about this whole TikTok thing is I have a fiduciary responsibility for the sake of this business to do social media, right? This is how we get out to people. This is how we meet people. And this is how people can find out that our program exists. And, if there's a TikTok, I'm going to be on it, right? I'm not convinced yet that I'm going to move to any other platforms other than YouTube and Facebag. But I'm also relatively confident that TikTok's not going anywhere. If it does, it's not going to go there for long. Y'all know there are mass protests being planned right now. Like the next 48 hours is going to be off the chain, y'all. So I'm looking forward to that. Where's Larry tonight? Larry, I'm just doing this one solo because I was going to interview the driver and handle all the number stuff. I'm going to address this James G on YouTube. James says, I've probably had the worst day in trucking today. I've been out here 31 years and I've lost my mojo. I literally don't have two nickels to rub together after 31 years. I found myself contemplating things a grown-ass man shouldn't think about. James, brother, there's always tomorrow. Okay? I have been there. When on that day, sitting at the Petro in Scranton, and I heard the rod slapping the side of the block, and I knew I was done. And I had an old friend that I've known my whole life, lived in Harrisburg, literally my whole life. Our moms were pregnant at the same time. And I called him. I'm like, JD, brother, I'm broke. And he come up and got me. And I boo-hooed and cried and, at his house. But then I had to go back up there and clean the truck out and go on to the next thing and went to drive for Swift. I drove for Swift for 30 days and lived to tell about it. But you got to grasp where you control what you can control. The things that are out of your control, you can't do anything about. But it's one day at a time, brother. It's one day at a time. But unfortunately, it's gonna involve looking in that mirror. And James is gonna have to look at James. And James is gonna have to be like, all right, brother, me and you did this. We're going to have to figure out what did we do wrong and what did we do right. Now, surely we did some stuff right. Surely we did some stuff right, but we also did some stuff wrong. We might have bought the wrong truck with the wrong motor, with the wrong transmission, with the wrong gears. We might have put the wrong tires on it. We might be connected to the wrong company. We might be pulling the wrong freight. We might be putting ourselves ahead of the needs of everyone else instead of the other way around, because when you're going to succeed in business, no matter what some narcissistic nitwit on TikTok says, rich people got rich people by doing rich people stuff. And nobody wants to hear this. But most rich people, like 97.325% of them, got that way by putting the needs of other people ahead of their own. I know y'all don't want to hear that because it sure is sexy to beat the rich, right? Because somehow they did something wrong. No, you did something wrong. Or, unfortunately, you got to accept that this is the United States of America with probably the worst education system on the planet that did absolutely nothing to prepare you for actual life outside of a classroom. And you've got to make that realization and go, whew, man, I don't know Jack. And it's possible that I don't know Jack on purpose. Maybe there was a group of people that didn't want me to know Jack, and now here I am. But whatever, you know what it all comes back to? Looking at that mirror. What do I know? What do I not know? What do I know that's based on nonsense? What do I need to know? Do I need to pick up some books? Do I need to find a mentor? I did. Because what's a mentor? I mean, really, I don't have the Webster's version of mentor, but I can tell you what it is to me. It's a person that has already walked down a path, and they're going to walk down that same path with you and say, okay, pothole, pothole, pothole. All right, walk around that one. Don't step in that one. That's what a mentor is, right? I have a hard time if somebody sells mentorship and they've never done the thing before. All right. Larry Long did a lot of stuff in his life, and I'll tell you one thing he did was he drove the hell out of a truck. Dude drove 3,600 miles a week for 4.5 years straight. Now, some of y'all don't think that's a big deal. Okay. But I know the route that he did. And it was 3,600 miles a week for 4 years straight, with the exception of he got T-boned in an intersection and somebody had to drive the truck while he was healing. But 3,600 miles a week for 4.5 years running FedEx freight at $1.30 a mile. He did whatever it took, right? So you've got to, I don't want you to look down, okay? I don't want you to look down, but I do want you to look over and see some people that are not maximizing their opportunities. And don't model anything that they're doing. Go find the people that are hustling. Go find the people that are getting it done. Go find the people like Phil. Phil Freese is a shining example. I mean, before ELD, no, matter of fact, that was on an ELD. Here's the nut job that Larry Long is. When he bought his truck in 2009, in 2009 at Transport America, he asked for an ELD. Why would he do that? The mandate didn't come in for another 8 years. Well, business people go, okay, well, listen, this ELD thing's coming and it's not going anywhere. I might as well figure it out now. And so he volunteered to put an ELD in his truck and ran 3,600 miles a week for 4.5 years. Now, what was there? Yeah, of course there were. Okay. Because it wasn't an ELD, it was an EOBRD. And there were, you could bend things a little bit. But I want you to hook onto the fact that he volunteered to get an ELD 8 years before it was mandated because he was forward thinking enough to go, well, this is not going away. I'm not going to pray it away. I'm not sure as hell not going to vote it away. It's not going away. It's coming. So I'm better adapt now and figure out how to do it. And figure it out. He did. I've been on an ELD since 2011. Didn't change my life. Not a bit. It did make me a better planner. Because with an ELD, you don't shove that old girl in gear until you have a plan and a backup plan and a backup plan for the backup plan. The ELD made me the trip planning ninja that I am today. Because you give me 5 minutes, a map, and a calculator, and I will plan you out a route down to the 10th of a mile, and I'll have it all figured out. But the reality is business people adapt and overcome. They figure out how to plan, communicate, and execute. And that's what we do. That if you wanted to describe what we call the blocking and tackling, the rudimentary fundamentals, plan, figure out what you're going to do and how long it's going to take you to do it, communicate what you are able to do, and then execute it to the best of your ability. That's it. That's what makes us so successful at Landstar. It's what would make us successful anywhere else. But as these numbers, and if you've just shown up, this will be rebroadcast on YouTube as soon as I hit the button to end it. But what these numbers that we've presented here tonight show you that these numbers that we did it was plan, communicate, execute. We build relationships over time because we plan, we communicate, and we execute. I just saw an email come in today for one. I think it was Greg that y'all just met. It was, thank you so much for your communication. Your communication was awesome. Because I've got friends now that are agents. I've been at Landstar for 10 years. And obviously, I'm going to develop relationships and make friends. And it's awesome when we go to the truck show, when we go to BCO days and these other things, we get to meet each other face to face and have a drink or 12, But they always say, oh, you know what makes me blah about truck drivers and BCOs? They won't communicate. They won't tell us what they're doing and when they're doing it and how they did it, and won't give us any proofs of delivery and won't send us an email. You won't have that problem with Blue Ribbon. Because if you do any of that garbage in my truck, I will put my foot up your posterior. And you'll do it or you'll quit. We are about business. We are about getting the job done, and we are about putting the needs of others ahead of our own. And that's what got us here. It's what got us through 2024. And that's what's going to make 25, 26, 27 and beyond even better. So again, if you are interested in learning through immersion how we do this, blueribbonlogistics.com. It's right on the front page. It's called the Masterclass. Lunatic University. We'll teach you how to be a lunatic. And the reason that people call us lunatics is because we don't do trucking how the rest of trucking does trucking. We do it with profit in mind. I don't care what you think about me. I don't care what you think about my truck. I don't care what you think about Landstar. I don't care what you think about the trailer. I care about what the customer thinks because they're the ones writing the checks. I have never, I'm trying to think of that quote. I have never taken criticism from someone I wanted to trade places with. I've never taken criticism from someone I wanted to trade places with. And with that, we'll see y'all next.